Hello, good morning, and welcome in to the Tuesday Tea with me, where I mind my business and probably a little bit of yours too. I am Christy. Get on in here, say hi. If you can hear me, please drop a number 2. If you're watching this, you're probably going to be catching a replay. If you don't see that red live up there, I will give you a little background of who I am while everybody comes in the room. Ooh, I don't want that up there. I want to delete that. I am a 12-year business owner. I have been doing my business for 12 years, full time 5. And I come on here to share the tea. The tea, Tuesday tea, was started by me just reading lots of different things, articles, and all the things. And I decided when I read Atomic Habits to make this a habit of reading more. Now, I was the kid growing up that because we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have tablets, it didn't make sense to me to be sitting in car rides or to be sitting at the doctor's office or to be sitting anywhere because I wasn't the one that's going to talk to a lot of people and just be staring and looking crazy. So the one way that people leave you alone is you have a book. So I carried books with me everywhere I went. Good morning, everybody. And when I carried those books along with me, I had a love for reading. Now, that love for reading grew to the Black Arabesque books, the love novels. Oh my goodness. I was in high school and college, like outside the books that I had to read for high school and college, love the Black Arabesque books, the love stories. All right. If you've read those, give me a little smiley face, throw some hearts, hit the hearts if you remember those books. And they were mailed to my house. Like I was a part of the membership. I didn't get magazines. I got book clubs, books mailed to me. I wasn't ever in what's that book club? The girly books I wasn't in that. I wanted love novels. Well, as I got older and became a mom and became a full-time assistant principal and was an educator. I see those hearts coming in. Thank you. It was an elementary educator, and then I was a teacher, educator of adults as an instructional coach or a data coach because I love data and I helped look at the data and help inform instruction. And then I became an assistant principal. I didn't have time for reading. Then I ran a business and I ran a business from my phone. So that really reduced the amount of time that I was reading books. And I tried the audibles and that really wasn't working for me either because I don't know about you, but I'd be listening to it and I'd be like, I think I missed that whole chapter because I'd be in my head thinking about something else. Like, okay, I need to go here, I need to go there, I need to do this for my daughter. And I'd be like, what did they just talk about? Rewind. So the audibles weren't working for me either. So when I was coming on here on Tuesday Tea, I decided that I'm going to share the books that I'm reading with you. Okay. And not only share the books with you, but I come in here and give you my understanding or an analysis of the book as it relates to our lives as moms, our lives as wives, our lives as business owners. And the one thing I say that I would say our lives as leaders. And the one thing I say, if you're not in a job where you're leading people, that you are in the job or the career of leading yourself. All right. So if I talk about things from a leadership standpoint, you're like, well, I don't lead anybody in my job. I'm not a management of people. I'm not a management of products. If you're a mom, you're a leader of your household. Whether you're married or not, you have a leadership role. There are children who look up to you, even when they're growing out of your house. I was literally talking to my husband this morning about how I look like my mom today. Now, I look like my dad. Like I see him in me all the time. But when I dress up, I see my mom. When I have the serious face and get down to work, I see my mom in me all the way. And so you have children who are going to see themselves in you. What do you want them to see, right? A leader of your household, a leader of your family, a leader in your place as a helpmate, however you describe that. So today is the first chapter of, or not even first chapter, the first part of the book, The Art of Thinking Clearly. I love how in the title he puts thinking upside down. Now, I do need to share with you guys, I have not done a good job of this, the breakdown of the chapters that I'll be reading. I'm going to have to post that later. I'm looking here in my planner, and I think I left it in my bedroom. I had it all mapped out of what chapters I'm going to read and talk to you guys. And I left it in my bedroom because I was supposed to be making a post about it before I went to bed, and that didn't happen. All right, real life here. So this book is The Art of Thinking Clearly. I love this book. Now, this book has, oh my goodness, how many? I don't know if I'd even call them chapters because they're like 3 pages, but it's like ideas, okay? Separate ideas. And let's see if I open it up. how many ideas he has in this book about thinking clearly, or the lack of thinking clearly, is 99. So this book is 309 pages all the way. That includes the notes section. So today I'm going to go through page 77. There are 300 pages. So I really broke that up into 4 sections. So the first section I'm going to talk about today is 77. Let me tell you what is included in 77. There are 80. Page 77. There are 26 sections for page 77. So I will not be able in this time period on here with you on a Tuesday tea to cover all these. But I do want to talk about his introduction. I think his introduction is very important. So he said, I'm going to just basically go through the parts that I've underlined and give you my analysis of it. Now, the reason I like to do the analysis is because I'm a former teacher, elementary teacher. So the basics, I understand the basics, the building blocks of learning. And there are levels to understanding. And the first level is knowledge. And so that's just memorizing facts, right? And so as you go up the level of knowledge, or the level of understanding, the hierarchy of understanding, I believe that belongs to Bloom's taxonomy. Or is that the one that, yeah, I think that's Bloom's taxonomy. If you're an educator and you remember, drop it in the comments, confirm or deny. All right. And so I come in here to try to help you with the analysis, which is a higher level of thinking. So a lot of people can remember facts about things like 2 + 2 equals, drop it in the comment. What is it? What's 2 + 2? Or 9 × 9, drop it in the comments. What's 9 × 9? That is a fact. All right. The higher level is to be able to analyze that, or to apply that fact to real life. Some people can apply. When you ask them, like your kids, for example, like we need 9 rows and we need 9 columns. How many total do we need? Well, that's 9 × 9. And they might look at you like, I don't know. And you'd be like, you know all your facts. What's 9 × 9? They can't apply the information that they know, right? And so what I like to do is come in here and I read the book. I want you to read a book. I have the whole list of the book pinned on my Facebook page, personal page, business page, pinned to the top of what we're reading. And so what I would ask is that you get this book and you read it and you form your own analysis, but I will come in here and I will read it, comprehend it, so I will understand what it's saying. And I feel the gift that God has given me is I know how to apply these things. Literally, I can apply any book to anywhere in your life. I can apply this area of book to your working life, as in your career. I can apply the areas of this book to your personal life and relationships with your family and your friends. I can apply this book to your business. Like, that's what I can do. So the last book that we read was The Science of Getting Rich. All right. The Science of Getting Rich. And so I went through and applied my understanding to it. Now, of course, my understanding and my analysis is going to be based on my background. But the good thing about my background is that I have worked with women of all ages as a leader in an elementary school, and all backgrounds. So I've worked in the country where they can still paddle kids in Georgia. I have worked in Chicago South Side. So I've worked in the hood where it was the schools across the street from the projects, that the large projects that people see like on the movies. That they actually have torn those down now and built like condos there. They moved the kids out to the Wild Hundreds, not the Wild Hundreds, but the Wild Hundreds, and they moved them out there. If you know what I'm talking about, drop a number 3 in the comments. I've taught there, and I've also taught suburbs of Atlanta. All right, so not exactly the country, not exactly the city, but somewhere in between there is where I've taught. And so I have educated the students in all those areas. I have also worked with all the kids, their parents from those areas. So I understand and have worked with different kind of mindsets, backgrounds, financial, where they were poor and poor, where they were richer than rich, and they had the charging cards before anybody else had the charging cards. So I know how to help people understand things no matter what their background is what I'm saying. So let's jump into it. This is the introduction. He says that unexpected events seem much more likely in retrospect. Like, we always look back and be like, I should have known that. Well, in retrospect, it always looks that way. But how he came up with this book is he had seen a lot of pitfalls that were not useful for making investing decisions. All right. So he basically is saying that people give themselves way too much credit for actually knowing things when either data is not their knowledge, they've taken knowledge from other people, not from them actually doing the work. Like a lot of people now, you will buy programs from. That's one of the chapters in here, and I'm basically skipping past the introduction. But one of the chapters in here says that the art of thinking clearly, we will take information given to us by somebody else that they just took from somebody else. They didn't learn it by doing. There is a big difference. I'm here to tell you, as a person who only talks about what I've done, like people will come to me and say, hey, like I had to ask a question on my business page, like, what would you like for me to come train you on? And people are saying things, and I'm like, I can't train on that. The max I've made in product sales per year is $30,000. I can't train on how to make six figures in sales. I haven't done that. I have no interest in doing that. I can tell you the knowledge I've gained from others, what other people have done. But if you go ask me in depth, like how'd you get there? I couldn't tell you how they got there. I'm just telling you what they said they did. I can tell you how to make $30,000 in the time period that I made $30,000 a year in my product. I can tell you how to build a team and a community because I've done that. But there are certain things you're going to ask me, and I'll be like, well, based on people who I've coached, who I've worked with, who have trained me, I can tell you how they did it, but I can't tell you. And I will tell you that, like, hey, such and such, well, this is what I know. Well, how? I didn't do that. I learned it from somebody else. All right. So I don't stake claim on, now I've read the book. So I'm not coming here and telling you what AI told me. I'm coming here and tell you what I have underlined in this book. Oh, I have a fake background, so you can't see it. But what I have underlined in this group. Okay. So going through this book, he says some warning or some notes to readers. So warnings and notes to keep in place, to keep in mind. Keep in mind three things as you prepare to read these pages. I really want to touch on this before I get into some of the things that I've read. First, the list of fallacies in this book is not complete. Undoubtedly, new ones will be discovered. So when was this book written? Let's see. See if in the front it's going to tell me when it was written. 2013. We know a lot has changed in 10 years. So he says, listen, other things will be discovered. But based on the time of this book being written, this is what he's discovered. Second, the majority of these errors are related to one another. So remember, I counted in the very beginning and I said, and somebody dropped in the comments, the book that I'm talking about is The Art of Thinking Clearly. Drop that in the comments because somebody's going to come in and ask. The Art of Thinking Clearly is the book that we're reading. He says that although he lists in this book, let me turn to the page, 99 things that plays a role on how we currently think. There are 99 things that play a role in how we currently think. Okay. And this is not all of them. Gotcha. Now, the third point he makes is he's primarily the author of this book. Rolf DeBelly is primarily a novelist and an entrepreneur, not a social scientist. All right. He's not a scientist. He doesn't have his own lab where he can conduct experiments or cognitive errors, nor does he have a staff of researchers he can dispatch to scout for behavioral errors. In writing this book, he thinks of himself as a translator whose job is to interpret and synthesize what he's read and learned to put it in terms others can understand. He's a man after my own heart. That's literally my goal of this Tuesday tea. Is not to be a know-it-all. It's not to say there's other ways to think about this. It's not to say that there's other ways to apply this book. But as a person who is good at interpreting and synthesizing what I've read and what I've learned and putting it into a way that others can understand. That's literally what this book is doing. And I am just adding to it. Okay. So let's go through some of the things. I'm going to list to you some of the things, titles he's listed. And as I'm listening to these, if you're like, ooh, Christian touched on that one, I'll go to that one. There's 29. How many? Page 77? 26. All right. So why should you visit cemeteries? Does Harvard make you smarter? Why you see shapes in the cloud? If 50 million people say something foolish, it's still foolish. Oh, I think I'm gonna touch on that one today. Social proof. That fits today's time. Why should you forget the past? Don't accept free drinks. Reciprocity is what that one's called. Beware the special case. Murder your darlings. Confirmation bias. Don't bow to authority. Any of those sticking out to you? Why we prefer a wrong map to none at all. Leave your supermodel friends at home. Why no pain, no gain should set an alarm bells ringing. Even true stories are fairy tales. Y'all, if y'all don't want to get this book after these titles, why you should keep a diary. Why you should systematically overestimate, or not why you should, why you do systematically overestimate your confidence, knowledge, and abilities. Ooh, that's the T. You control less than you think. That's a title in here. I'm starring some of these because whether y'all pick one or not, I think some of these I'm gonna go back and talk about. Never pay your lawyer by the hour. That's a good one too. This is a sticky title right here. The dubious efficacy of doctors, consultants, and psychotherapists. It's a big word. If you don't understand none of that, I might need to go over that. Less is more. The paradox of choice. You like me. You really, really like me. The liking bias. The inevitability of unlikely events. Coincidence. Now, remember, this is called the art of thinking clearly. So it will be explaining how coincidences affect us thinking clearly. The inevitability of unlikely events. The calamity of conformity. And the last chapter, why you'll soon be playing mega trillions. The neglect of probability. Which one of those y'all want me stood out to you? I'm going to go ahead and pick on one that stood out to me. That I'm talking about, which is on page 10. I could literally read this whole chapter because they're so short. Page 10, which is, I don't like to call them chapters, like part 4, is 1 to 2.5 pages. If 50 million people say something foolish, it's still foolish. That's the T. Because some of us be riding with things that because everybody said it, we buying it, but it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like the fact that, like, growing up, we would buy, this may not be your generation, but this was mine. We would buy Nikes just because I had a check on it, but it was really the exact same shoe in Payless. Drop the word Payless if you know, remember Payless. I love Payless. I'm so sad they closed. But the same shoes were made in the same factory as Nike, the Payless tennis shoes, but because they didn't have the check mark on it, people weren't buying them. If 50 million people say something foolish, it's still foolish. This is called social proof. All right. So social proof sometimes is on page 10. Social proof sometimes, I'm reading the book and hold it up so I can read it to y'all. Social proof sometimes roughly termed the herd instinct dictates that individuals feel they are behaving correctly when they act like same as the other people. Now, I've got in trouble or have been looked at sideways because everybody's doing it. I'm like, that don't make sense. I think that's why my first principal, who gave me my first leadership position, liked me so much, because I'd be in meetings with him and he would say something and everybody else would be like, yeah, that's a great idea. And I was like, but that doesn't make sense if we're thinking, if our goal is this. And he'd be like, you know what? You're right. I didn't think about that. And I'd be looking around these other people like, are y'all not smart? Or are y'all just have herd instinct? willing to go along with what everybody else is saying in the room, even though it's not right. In other words, this is another way of putting it, the more people who follow a certain idea, the better or truer we deem the idea to be. And the more people who display a certain behavior, the more appropriate this behavior is judged by others. This is, of course, absurd. That's right. Cherie says mob mentality. We are seeing it so much with our children right now. I think it's more prevalent today because before, mob mentality, when we were younger, would only happen like in your neighborhood, which is why it was good to get out of here. I'm so glad my parents made it a purpose to get us out of our neighborhood so that we could see that there was more. I'm glad that we had family members who were making $500,000 back then, who are millionaires now. And my aunt was taking us to Florida for our first trip to Disney World or Disneyland, whichever one's in Florida. Like, I'm so glad that we were able, because back then you didn't have social media to see that there were huge houses outside your neighborhood, that there were people who looked like you who drove nice cars. There were people who looked like you who ran corporations. You couldn't see that back then unless you had somebody in your family. And then you thought it was like, depending on your family, they were shunning that person because that person thought they was too good because you couldn't see it anywhere else. Exactly, Angel. Like getting those Stanley Cups. Do you know how the Stanley, now that was great marketing. I just found out, and many of you may not know this, that the reason the Stanley Cup took off is because a car caught on fire. This actually really happened. So it wasn't one of those things where Stanley Cups created a scenario and then put it out on social media to make everybody think it was real, but it wasn't real. It was something that they created themselves. No. A car actually caught on fire, burnt up. And the one thing that was fine in the car was a Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup was still okay. It wasn't burnt up. It's still fine. Well, what the Stanley company did was take that video and they made it go viral because the company shared it. So it was actually a real scenario as far as sources say. Now, if you don't know, the art of thinking clearly, which is why a lot of times I do research and I post some stuff because herd mentality makes me money. But I've done the research and I'm like, this stuff's not even true. For example, the Stanley Cup, right? Now, based on what I've researched, now I wasn't there and saw the car burnt. So just based on my research, this is how it started, right? But Stanley Cup really could have done that. They really could have burnt the car. They could have set the story that this really happened. And then they shared everywhere. And then once they shared everywhere, the Pyramid Mouse Cup. Once they shared everywhere, people are like, ooh, I want this cup. And then it blows up from there. And that worked million times over for Stanley Cup. But many times we won't do any research of our own to see if it's true. I was in a Facebook post the other day. Who were they talking about? Oh, LeBron James. Somebody said something about LeBron James, and here goes somebody in the comments. Now, I comment on these things. Like, if I see something going viral, even if I don't agree with it, like, I don't even agree with this stuff. But if I see that the comments, well, I'll do this anyway, but it does work for my business. If I see that the comments are the opposite of what I believe, I'm like, that's just like, oh, y'all just believe the same stupid stuff. That is not true. All right. I will comment because I'm like, somebody got to speak some common sense up in this thing. But guess who's attracted to me in those comments? The same person who feels the same way I do. So the people who come and believe what I believe will like, love, comment on it. And I'm adding them as a friend because that's my people. That's how I get my tribe to follow me. I'm not going to add people that's on that post that's just talking crazy. That's not my tribe. So everything I post is not going to ring true to them. Here's an example. So they were saying something good about LeBron James in the top post, and somebody commented in there was like, I don't know why everybody looking up LeBron James and his wife. He cheated on her and hasn't done a baby by such and such. So she listed the lady's name and she was like, Google it. Okay, well, I got time today. So I Googled it. All right. And when I Googled it, I found a interview that this lady who is a news anchor, because I went all the way back, I found out she's a news anchor. And I even checked what she said, and I found out that the dates that she gave were true, that she did work in Cleveland at this time, and she did work in Miami at this time. and that she does have a daughter. And honestly, she looks just like LeBron James's, like they fit the same description. If you were to describe her, you would be describing LeBron James's wife. And I listened to a interview she did on the radio on V103 in Atlanta with who was that? Ryan Cameron. Ryan Cameron interviewed her in 2000, maybe 17. So, or it was an older interview. And he asked her, she's like, you know what? Nobody ever actually comes straight out and just asked me. She's like, so I've never answered this question, but she's like, because you didn't beat around the bush and you just came straight out and asked me, is my child by LeBron James? No, my child is not by LeBron. She's like, but I'm a news anchor. I'm a journalist. I'm very aspirational. And she was like, so I just let people run off with whatever story they want to run off with. But I have never, my child is not by LeBron James, but that's what people say. So I copied that and put it under her comment. And I said, I did what you said. And I Googled, and here's the interview of her saying the child is not his. If 50 million people and everybody, people in the comments like, girl, yeah, I heard that too. Just because 50 million people are saying it, but this is the art of thinking clearly. So I'm gonna go a little further with this because there's so many other things I can touch on, but that's just an example of it. All right. An example of it. So he says he's invested so much energy. Shut it down. Okay. And just say I shut it down. And but that's what I do. Right now, I don't spend my time on social media trying to do that all the time, but it works in my business favor. It grows my social media following of like-minded people. If something like that comes in my timeline, I take the moment to read the comments and I do my own research. But I don't have the mob mentality for I'm not gonna say ever. I don't ever. But if something seems like this may not make sense, then I'm going to go research for myself and see if it's actually what people are saying. Because 50,000 people will say, and I understand, like I taught them when they were children. I not only taught them, their parents, they were children, their parents were the ones who were coming to meet with me. I understand how people think about things. So I don't just take for that 70% of the population is saying this. I also understand how the system works, meaning marketing will say whatever, they'll say whatever, or they'll take part of the truth and put in there. I was watching a documentary. I like documentaries. Excuse me. This is literally the art of thinking. So if the things that I'm saying, you're like, I never thought about that, read this book. What I am giving you is examples of how you can think clearly that they mention in this book. So I was watching a documentary about on Netflix, and I can't remember the title of it, but it's basically about eating. So they did an experiment with twins because twins have, now I'm not a scientist, so don't quote me on this, but twins will have like the same body makeup, right? So their metabolism, their genes are closely aligned, very more so than if it was just me and Angel. All right. So they took twins to do this experiment on, and they randomly decided one of the twins would be vegan and one of the twins would be omnivore. So they're going to eat meat. So vegan and omnivore. And they did all these tests on them. And like the first week, I didn't finish watching the show. I'm going to tell you why I didn't finish watching the show. They did all these tests. And I'm like, I'm going to go get these tests done where they like test your body. So it's better than a BMI where you actually go and they test like basically the healthiness of your body. DEXA scan. Has anybody in here done a DEXA scan? Oh my gosh, I'm going to go get it. I've said years ago I was going to do a DEXA scan. I still haven't done it, but I'm going to go get a DEXA scan. And it takes it further about your health. They did one test that will tell you your actual physical age as opposed to your birth age. So like some of the twins were like 45 and one was actually based on their health and everything was like 40. Okay. So they did all these tests. Then for the first like couple of weeks, they were giving them their food. And then they would wean them off. I didn't finish watching the episode. So I didn't finish watching it. Let me tell you I didn't finish watching it. Because I went on TikTok. And I went on TikTok just to look up some reel to share. Because I was like, this will attract people who are conscious about their health to my page. I'm going to share a reel about it. Yes, you are what you eat twin experiment. That's what it is. Well, according to, now I didn't do any more research past this, but I believe it. So I took it for what it was, but I believe it. So this experiment at the end said that the vegans turned out being better than the people who ate meat. But the people who funded this experiment are vegans. The company who funded the experiment are vegans. The company who funded the experiment is in Silicon Valley, and they have businesses that they're like invested in. What's that burger that's not really a burger? Impossible Burger. They're invested in like Impossible Burger, and they're invested. So it helps their business if their businesses, if they show a study that being vegan is better than eating meat. That he also in the TikTok showed that what was another example? I was like, I ain't even watching it no more because they'd have me sold on being a vegan. Oh, he said that the part they didn't tell was the muscles, something about the muscle. And so the person who was a vegan lost weight, but they also lost muscle mass, which is something to do with your muscles that you need. So he's like, they didn't tell that part of it. Like, you need muscles, or you need the muscle mass, or whatever it is about the muscles that they lost when they lost weight, but they didn't share that part of it because that would have made people like, oh, I don't want to be a vegan. Right? So the art of thinking clearly. So not taking things at face value, but doing the research or realizing who is funding this project and do they have any reason for wanting it to be skewed left or right. If they have a reason, these are like salespeople. What are you getting out of this sale? Like a business opportunity. If I'm making money out of this business opportunity, I'm really trying to share it for you to get better. Come on. Like even I have 2 businesses, right? And both of them, one, you doing it, I may probably make $1.25. Like I'm trying, but you could make 500. Or I may make 500, but you'd be making 3,000. So it doesn't benefit me any more than it benefits you. If you win 3 to 10 times more off of doing it, and I only win a small percentage. Now I ain't got to tell you about it at all, and I could just go do me. But because I'm winning, I'm sharing with you to see if you like to win too. That's for all my businesses I've done. I've been a success in. I won great first. And then I was like, I might need to tell some people about this so they can win too. Not keeping it to myself. All right, let's go to another one. So the end of that one, he says, the rational decision making requires you to forget about the cost incurred to date. No matter how much, it's the same. Yeah. No matter how much. Oh, sorry, that was forget the past. I've skipped it. Sorry, let me go back. If 50 million people say something is foolish, it's still foolish. Yeah, I flipped the page, but I guess I should read that one next. So when the ad says we asked 100 people and they chose, well, which 100 people? Did they choose 100 people like me? More than likely not. So which 100 people did they choose? Or when they say doctor recommended for the toothpaste, dentist recommended for toothpaste, I don't even trust everything the dentist says. That is in here too. So that is in section, you got to read this. He talks about it's the doctors, the consultants, and which one? The dubious efficacy of doctors, consultants, and psychotherapists, regression to mean. That's on page 55. Let's just go over there on page 55 before we end out this Tuesday tea. I didn't even underline anything in this section, but I'm gonna touch on it. Okay. He says his back pain was, I'm gonna take this and give you an example. He's talking about back pain. Let's talk about the flu. Let's talk about the virus. Let's talk about pneumonia. Do we realize that it takes, with or without medicine, it takes 7 to 14 days if you're a healthy individual for that to pass through your system? But we go to the doctor and we go get medicine that makes us feel like we got over it faster, but really it still took the 7 to 14 days. It really doesn't help us get over it any quicker. This is the dubious efficacy of doctors, consultants, and psychotherapists. That is section 19. So he says, in conclusion, when you hear stories such as, I was sick, went to the doctor and got better a few days later, or the company had a bad year, so we got a consultant in, and now the results are back to normal. Look out for our old friend, the regression to mean error. All right. Now, if you're not understanding what the regression to mean error, let me give you an example he gives. In Boston, this is page 57. In Boston, let me put the title of the book back up here for those who are going to ask. There it is. The lowest performing schools were entered into a complex support program. The following year, the schools had moved up in the rankings, an improvement that the authorities attributed to the program rather than the natural regression to mean. Meaning there's a natural course of getting better. But people are going to say the medicine did it. It's a natural regression to getting better, like your bones healing. Your bones will eventually heal, but it was because of that cast. That's an example. I know there's always, well, it's going to heal the wrong way. It's going to heal, right? But they will say, of course, you're going to need a cast, but there's 3 types of casts to choose from. There's the cheap cast without the name brand on it. Like when I go buy medicines, give me the non-name brand. Like I don't need the name brand one. They're going to heal me at the same amount of time. I'm just going to pay extra for it. Cortisone. A prime example is cortisone. You can buy the name brand cortisone or the off brand. I have both of them in there, and guess what? They both work the same. They both start with the itching of a mosquito bite for me. One looks thicker and one is waterier, but they're the same. All right. So that's that one. Let's see what's another one I can touch on real quick before we get out of here. Now, he does say in the introduction, you're not going to be able to change all these things that you think about or all the ways that you think. Like we're still going to have the herd mentality, but the idea is that's going to make you think at least more than you used to about, is this a herd thing? And you can decide like it's a herd thing and I'm down for it. There are plenty of things that I realize like I'm just jumping on this bandwagon and I'm okay with it. But I do at least realize it's a bandwagon. And that's what this is the idea is that I know so many people who don't even realize that they're jumping into a bandwagon situation or they're making a decision not based off facts. They don't even realize it. I would prefer you to know that you're not making a decision off facts and you're okay with that. You're still making a decision. I would prefer that when you read this book, you realize that your thoughts are being skewed. You know this, but you're still going to do it. Now, that used to bother me about my mom, though. My mom, that used to bother my mom about me, is because she'd say, Christy, when I was younger, I know you're a very thinking kid. And what bothers me is I know you thought about that and you still decided to do it. And I'm like, I weigh the pros and cons, baby. And what's the worst you're going to do? Be in trouble for a week? You not going to inconvenience yourself for a whole month. This is literally what I'm thinking as a child. My mom's not going to inconvenience herself for a whole month to stay on me for punishment. So I'll probably be in trouble for a week. Well, I'm looking at my calendar for this week and there's no birthday parties at my school going on. I could sit at home for a week and read books. So if I get caught, because there's still the part that I won't get caught, so there won't even be any bad, but if I get caught, is it worth me getting caught and not being able to attend things for a week, stretch it 2 weeks? It's worth it. I'm going to do it. Like that's literally how I thought. The art of thinking clearly. So I'm just trying to help the people. I'm just trying to help you guys. I'm just trying to help y'all think a little clearly, because clearly I've been thinking clearly, and good or bad, I make my decision anyway. I can rationalize like the best of them, baby. That probably bothers my husband too. He's like, you will make anything. I'm like, and will? Good or bad, I will rationalize. I have thought this fully out and have said, F it, I'm doing it anyway. All right, so that is what this book I hope brings to you as we come back here for the next Tuesday tea with me. And I'm gonna tell you, go over the chapters for the next Tuesday tea. The next Tuesday tea. But I guess what bothers me so much is, and why I want to help more people with this, and why I think this is a great, because I've learned some other things. I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. That is so true, right? Is I want people to make informed decisions. Like, decide that you're going to do this and be informed about it, right? And it's not going to change everything. Like, there's 99 things in here. We're not going to catch them all, but let's see if there's another. Oh, well, I'm not reading another one because I don't have time. Time is up. But let me tell you what's in the next one. Why the last cookie in the jar makes your mouth water. It's called scarcity error. It's gonna be good next week. When you hear hoofbeats, don't expect a zebra. It's base rate neglect, is what it's called. Why the balancing force of the universe is baloney. Ooh, that's universe talk. It's called gambler's fallacy. Why the wheel of fortune makes our head spin. The anchor. How to relieve people of their millions. Why evil is more striking than good. Why teams are lazy. Oh, I need to read that one. It's called social loafing. That's the T. Stumped by a sheet of paper. That's exponential growth. Let's see. 77, so I should be going to 140. So here's the other ones. Curb your enthusiasm. The winner's curse. Never ask a writer if the novel is autobiographical. The fundamental attribution error. Why you shouldn't believe in the stork. False causality. Yeah, slow down if I read these words right. These big words. How to expose a charlatan. Ooh, let me start that one because I think I'm going to talk about that. That sounds like some tea right there. How to expose a charlatan. Volunteer work is for the birds. I think I'm going to touch on that one too. Wait, I think that's it because 77, if I double 77, that'd be 140. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. I skipped a page. That will be third week. Sorry, that's the third week. I skipped a page. All right, let's go back. Why attractive people climb the career ladder more quickly. It's called the halo effect. Halo. Maybe that's what Beyonce was talking about when she sang that song, Halo. I'm about to go back and listen to that song again. And that's the one thing I love about books is because people who are songwriters, they read. And what I found is the more and more I read popular books like the Getting Rich, I was listening to a leader talking the other day and they made a comment. I was like, oh, that came from the book Getting Rich. And then he said, now where did I get that from? And I posted it, Getting Rich, because I read it. And he was like, yes, that was the month of the book and the rest of y'all ain't read it. I did. So I know where that came from. But that goes back to what was that? If a million people say something. No. The social proof one, right? Where's social proof? And one of these areas. Oh, if 50 million people say something foolish, it is still foolish. Social proof. All right. That goes back to social proof. I knew he actually read the book, so he was able to quote it. Now, there are going to be people in that room who will quote what he said, but they have not read the book, so they don't understand the context. Who that sound like? The church? Okay. That's the tea. People who haven't read the Bible for themselves, they don't know the context in which a statement is made, but they just out here quoting John 3:16, but they ain't read 3:15, 3:14, 3:13, 3:12, 3:11, 3:17, 3:18, 3:19, and 3:20. I'm signing off, y'all. That's the tea. We don't want to go today. That is an example of social proof. People who are quoting other people, but they don't have the social proof themselves. That is me taking and applying, because y'all may not have understand the Boston situation where they were comparing it to the schools, lower performance going all the way where, but you can understand the second tier pastor. He been sitting there watching the pastor who retired. And all he doing is copying what the pastor who retired said, but he ain't lived nothing. He don't understand the before the chapter that came before John 3:16, Matthew, Mark, Luke. He don't know those that led up to the story of John. He don't understand how in Exodus it was in reference to John. John was doing that. Like, these are examples because I don't know. I'm not claiming I know. This is just an example for people who are in the church and you can understand this concept. Y'all get the book, The Art of Thinking Clearly. Don't take what I'm saying for go read it. Now, although I do come in here and underline and say, show you I read the book, but that doesn't mean anything. I could just underline. There are people in this world right now who will buy the book for $12, who will throw some underlines in it, and who will not read the book and will come in here and tell you what they think, or they will just go on AI and put in The Art of Thinking Clearly and ain't read not a bit, and you're going to take their word on it because you didn't pick up the Bible or the book yourself and get your own understanding from it. And then come in here and just say, I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it this way. Now, I'm not saying your way of thinking of it is wrong. Not at all. I'm just saying it's the way I think of it. Yeah, my birthday was January 26th. We're still in Aquarius season, so I'm still officially celebrating. All right, y'all. I gotta go. Love you. I'll be back here next week with The Art of Thinking Clearly, whatever the next 77 chapters are, but I will post it in the After the Tuesday Tea Facebook group, and I'll put it in the next event as well. Bye.